Following is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are Sun.
Tampa Bay finished the stand at home in winning fashion, taking the final 2 games from the Chicago White Sox. Tonight, the Rays initiate a 12-game gauntlet versus the AL East. It begins in Boston with left-hander Drew Smiley taking the hill versus Big Papi and the Red Sox. Tonight on a cool but comfortable evening, we welcome you to the Back Bay Fins section of the city of Boston, where the Rays begin a 2-city road trip, first meeting the Boston Red Sox. Hi again, everybody, and welcome to an evening of Rays baseball with Brian Anderson. I'm Dwayne Statz. Great to have you aboard. Well, for the 105th year, they're playing baseball on these grounds here at Fenway Park. And BA, tonight the Rays will start it with a left-hander Drew Smiley on the hill.
Well, listen, he's had a lot of success against his Boston Red Sox ball club. You go back over the course of his career, covers 8 games, 6 of them have been starts, and overall a 3-1 record, 1.77 earned run average. How about this number? 3 starts against the Red Sox last year, covering 18 in the 3rd innings. He gave up just 1 earned run, and it makes a lot of sense because this Boston lineup sees more pitches than most teams, and Drew has a lot of different ways to get you out. So you get deep into the count with Drew Smiley, and there are just too many pitches to cover. Advantage Smiley. One guy he's going to have to control here tonight, David Ortiz. He's had a ton of success against the Rays in his career, and he has a knack for doing damage in big spots. So as a collective group, this Rays pitching staff has to say to themselves, this guy cannot beat you. When the game is on the line in key spots, you're going to have to punt on David Ortiz and move on to someone else. He's just way too dangerous.
And this series against Big Papi and the Red Sox begins a run of 2 weeks in which the Rays are playing back inside the American League East. When we come back, Todd Callis chats with Evan Longoria about what this next 2-week span could mean to this club.
away from Boston as the Rays kick off a 3-game series and a 6-game road trip next on Fox Sports Sun. From Boston, where the Rays take on the Red Sox for the first time this year. It'll be the Red Sox and the Yankees on this road trip. The Rays will face a bunch of American League East opponents after taking on Cleveland and the Chicago White Sox on that recent homestand. In fact, in our Toyota Inside Look, you'll see that the next 12 games are all against the AL East. You've got 3 against Boston on the road, 3 against the Yankees on the road, and then you're home for Baltimore and Toronto before taking on the National League's LA Dodgers. So it's 12 straight against the AL East. We caught up with Evan Longoria and asked him about playing all these teams within the division. We will hear from Longo a little bit later on. Right now, let's take it upstairs to Dwayne Stats and Brian Anderson.
All right, Todd, thank you very much. Boston has taken the field. There's a look at Evan Longoria leading the Rays into this series against the Red Sox. And in this extended part of the schedule where the Rays will be tangling with the American League East. Let's take a quick look at the starting lineup presented by your Southern Ford dealers. Logan Forsythe will lead it off. He'll be followed by Logan Morrison and then Evan Longoria. Corey Dickerson will hit cleanup, the DH. Then Desmond Jennings. Brad Miller is the shortstop. Steven Souza Jr. in right. Kevin Kiermaier in center field, and Kurt Casale will be doing the catching and batting ninth.
Well, they'll be facing right-hander Joe Kelly, taking the mound tonight for the Boston Red Sox. 2 starts on the season, a perfect 1-0 record, but that ERA 10.13, 8 innings of work, and Joe Kelly has allowed 23 base runners. That trend continues, and that loss column number will start to pile up. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Boston Red Sox defense and see how that's going to line up here tonight. Brought to you by Gold and Diamond Source. In the outfield left to right, we have Chris Young, Jackie Bradley Jr., and Mookie Betts. Across that infield third to first, Travis Shaw, Xander Bogaerts, Dustin Pedroia, and Hanley Ramirez with Ryan Hannigan behind the plate.
Jim Hickey, his pitching staff for the Rays, running fourth in the American League in ERA at a 3.23. And ending that homestand, outstanding performances by both the starters and the relievers. Matt Moore closing out the game in that homestand Sunday with a 6 1/3 outing, picking up the victory. Romero and Colomé closed that one, with Colomé picking up his first big league save. So after the off day yesterday, into Fenway tonight, it is Logan Forsythe to lead it off, facing the right-hander Joe Kelly. 52 degrees here in Boston. And the first pitch of this game presented by Pinch-A-Penny, and that's in there for a strike call. So we're underway. Forsythe with a couple of home runs in the early part of this year. He did not go. A check in time by Logan. It's 1-1. Well, the Rays have won a couple games in a row to get to 5-7. And the Red Sox have dropped 2 straight. They're now 6-6. Strike call.
Well, if that pitch is going to be called tonight, both pitchers are going to be very happy. Joe Kelly with tremendous stuff working up in the zone, tough to get on top of his pitches. And we know Drew Smiley, he loves to work up in the zone.
This one up even more. Definitely out of the zone that time.
Well, you know, and you're trying to entice. You're telling a hitter, look, he just called one right at the top of the zone. I'll take it up another inch or two, and maybe I'll get the chase. Logan Forsythe, good discipline.
Here's the 2-2. Finally get back. Kelly, a 10-game winner last year for Boston. 10-6 in 25 starts with an earned run average over 4.8, and we have seen him be spot on and then suddenly have it all get away from him.
Well, he has tremendous stuff, an electric fastball. However, more often than not, a lot of these pitches find the middle of the plate. I mean, he puts up some gaudy numbers, and you're right, he had that start against the Rays last year. He had a 4-1 going into the bottom of the 6th inning at Tropicana Field, and it went single, 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 walk. Night was over, and it can happen just that fast.
It's gone 3-2 with Logan Forsythe and walks him. Missed with a pitch up. The Rays put their first hitter aboard.
That's great discipline by Logan Forsythe, falling down in the count and the second strike being at the top of the strike zone, and then just not chasing. You can't ask for more out of your leadoff hitter.
Well, Logan Morrison up here at first base again tonight, hitting in the 2nd spot. Morrison 2 of 11 in his career against Kelly. One of those hits, a home run. And he takes the first pitch off the plate. That one in. It's Forsythe at first. Rocco Baldelli again in the coaching box down there at first base. Charlie Montoya across the diamond at third. A 2-0. Well, he got ahead of Forsythe, walked him, and now Kelly is behind Morrison 2-0.
Well, through the first 12 games, first couple weeks of the season, the Rays are the most aggressive swinging team in baseball. Tonight, you had better be selective. Make Joe Kelly earn it, because he can lose hitters like he did with Forsythe, and he can do this too, 2-0.
It's a strike. Well, coming into this game, in 2 starts, he had a total of 8 innings. He had struck out 10, but had walked 8, and now 9.
And with the hit batter and all the hits given up, that's now 8 innings total, 24 base runners. That's 3 base runners an inning. Amazing that you have a record of 1-0.
Will tap right side. Pedroia is going to play it to first to Ramirez. And Forsythe advances into scoring position with 1 out.
Well, that's one thing that Joe Kelly is capable of doing, is getting you to pound the ball into the ground. You know, his two-seamer has a lot of late life, and when he is able to command that ball around the zone and keep it down, he will wear out the infielders.
Well, Evan Longoria, this represents the big matchup. Here, the GMC big matchup for Evan. Last year hit .360 against Boston pitching with 4 home runs and 9 runs batted in, and an RBI opportunity the first time up here tonight. And that is a strike. Kelly out of the St. Louis Cardinals organization. Big prospect with them. Up and in. It's 1-1. Kelly still just 25 years old. And you're right, when he has that sinker working, he'll throw that more than anything else. Also a 4-seamer, but that 2-seamer is a pitch he really relies on. Two and one.
Well, the one thing that we haven't seen yet tonight are the big numbers as far as velocity goes. I mean, he had last year one of the strongest fastballs in the game. I mean, he's averaging up over 95 miles an hour in that range.
Yeah, that was an average.
Yeah,
95 plus.
I mean, that is incredible.
That last fastball was 90.
Yeah, and we've seen a couple of 89 too.
Two and two. He's made 15 pitches, 8 out of the strike zone, and you might be able to argue the point on a couple others. Full count to Evan Longoria, off speed there.
Well, that one he looked like he almost short-armed, like he was trying to aim that pitch instead of just throwing it with conviction. A changeup is nothing more than a fastball with a different grip. That has to be the mindset. It looked like he was thinking changeup. He short-armed it. It was an easy read for Evan Longoria, and right back to a full count situation.
He went 3-2 to Forsythe, walked him. Now with 1 out, 3-2 to Longoria. And he walks him.
Same thing. Right back to the same thing. Kind of short arm, aiming that pitch. Both of them well short of the intended target, and another walk.
You know, tough spot, and you can obviously speak to this with your time on the mound, but when a pitcher goes out there and tries to find that comfort spot right from the beginning, if he doesn't, he's really in a tough spot. That's where Kelly is right now. Conversely, hitters have to be careful in a situation like this and let a guy do what he's going to do out there.
And that's what I was wondering coming into this game. That's what I was looking for. Will this Rays lineup come out of the dugouts free swinging like they have all year against this guy who can get himself into trouble like we're seeing right now? Or will they let it happen? So far, so good.
Corey Dickerson. And he takes a pitch upstairs. And here's a guy, Corey Dickerson, who really wants to drive in runs. His mindset is to attack it. But he laid off that pitch up well out of the strike zone, and now Kelly's going to get a visit.
I think that probably is part of the game plan. Listen, guys, let's be aggressive, but let's also let Joe Kelly show us that he's going to be able to consistently throw strikes. I mean, let's go out there ready to hit. If you get you almost go up against Joe Kelly from the first pitch, figuring it's a 2-0 count. What are you looking for, 2-0 or 3-1? One pitch, one spot. If you get it, take a rip. If not, let's see if he'll get himself into some trouble. And right now it looks like with the changeup, the last two that we saw, that breaking ball right there, Joe Kelly is aiming the ball. He's not letting it fly.
A visit from Carl Willis, his pitching coach. A 1-0 count on Corey Dickerson. And that's ball 2. So it's been a struggle for Kelly here through the first 19 pitches. Just 7 strikes.
Well, and if he doesn't in his mind say, I'm just going to let it fly. You know what? The results, we'll see what they're going to be, but I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down letting it go because he's not letting the pitches go right now.
And he misses on the 3rd straight pitch to Dickerson.
Yeah, and I don't know, another changeup maybe. I mean, the velocity at 84 miles an hour, he's not been comfortable with that pitch. He continues to go back to it and just cannot find the strike zone, aiming everything.
And he picks up a strike with a fastball. That fastball at 93. The gun had it at 92.
It's the first one he's really let go. Probably a couple pitches too late. Still in jail here in a 3-1 count.
And a cut and a miss. Dickerson airs it out on the fastball. See, Dickerson took a mighty cut at this.
We're going to see that often. Corey Dickerson does not get cheated. He's going to be dropping down on that left knee. We'll see that all season long. Got one more chance right here.
2 men on, 1 out, 3-2 the count. And a cut and a miss. So Dickerson missed the fastball. 2 gone.
Well, he finally did, it looks like, take that mental jump where you say, you know what, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to let it fly. And he threw 3 quality fastballs with good late life and was able to power them right by Dickerson and pick up a big strikeout.
You know, there may be something now wrong with Kelly.
You know what? 2 pitches ago, he threw that second pitch that Corey Dickerson swung and missed at, and there was a little pause getting back up on the rubber, like he didn't want to let it go. Maybe that's why we haven't seen the velocity that we normally see. And when he cut it loose, it didn't feel real good.
John Farrell called out. The infield gathered around, and Hanley Ramirez looked toward the dugout, motioning for some help out there on the mound. So they're going to try to figure out if Kelly's all right or not.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see what exactly that was, because lack of velocity, lack of command, and then all of a sudden he said, forget it. And this is where, Dwayne, this is where I thought something may be a little bit off. It was the first swinging strike to Dickerson. Watch the reaction of Joe Kelly. That was that. You get a little. Well, this is not the. It's the next one. You see him rolling the shoulders. He had been doing that, but the next swinging strike, he really, you'll be able to see. There's a little bit of a wince, and he starts messing with the arm and doesn't get right back up on the rubber. And see that pause right there. Let you know that something is not right.
And he's taking a couple of pitches here under the supervision of John Farrell. And that's going to be it for Kelly.
I mean, not surprising. You saw the reaction. You get the trainer, the manager out there early in the season. No reason to risk it right now.
So he's going to leave this game after facing 4 men, walking 2 and picking up a strikeout. We'll be back in just a moment. Baseball on Fox Sports Zone is brought to you by Ram Trucks, Guts, Glory Ram. By your local Toyota dealers. Let's go places. By Bright House Networks. Visit brighthouse.com. And by Furman, the Bay Area's first name in Chevrolet. We're at the top of the first at Fenway Park. Joe Kelly leaving the game. So they'll have a new pitcher. Heath Hembree is out there getting loose. Right now, we'll check in with Todd Callis.
All right, Dwayne, and we'll hear from Evan Longoria. The Rays playing 12 consecutive games against the AL East, 6 on this road trip, Boston and New York, then back home for Baltimore and Toronto. Here's Longoria about facing teams within his division.
I think it's good to kind of gauge it early on. We know that teams are all going to be competitive. It's going to be a close race from beginning to end. So it's always interesting to see early on how teams are and then how it shapes up in the end. And you end up playing usually a completely different team or a lot of pieces move around. So I love playing in division. I feel most comfortable playing in division. So happy to be back here.
That bears it out with the way he has hit, especially the last few seasons here at Fenway Park and Yankee Stadium. And guys, Baltimore out to a good start, but the other 4 teams all within a game of each other. And the Rays will see a lot of action in the AL East over the next 12. Back to Dwayne.
So this one starts right there in the standings. Baltimore off to that quick start, as we saw early, and as Todd referenced, the Toronto and the Red Sox at the 500 mark, the Yankees 5-6, and the Rays 5-7. So it's bunched up already, and figures frankly to be that way all year, one would think. Heath Hembree is going to be the new pitcher, originally with the Giants, and he's been a guy who both in the minor leagues and in his time in the big leagues has worked out of the bullpen and was just added to their bullpen in a move they made. They sent Noe Ramirez to AAA and recalled this right-hander. So he's ready to go. Longoria is at first, Forsythe at second, and here is Desmond Jennings. Well, an opportunity right away in the first inning. The Rays would love to be able to take advantage of this.
Well, on a night where the Boston bullpen is going to be stretched thin, you're right, an early lead would be huge.
Pitch is inside to Jennings. 1-0.
Well, the Rays have seen Hembree last season, 4 different games covering 3 1/3 innings. So you pull out those old scouting reports and get ready to go to work.
One a strike in the very far reaches of the zone up. Right back. Fastball. Two walks, 2 base runners, 2 outs. Jennings down 1-2.
This is where you start thinking about the slider. Fastball, slider, changeup for Hembree.
And he used it to strike him out, got him on the slider. Rays leave 2, do not score. Boston coming in to hit. Park. Let's look at Mookie Betts. He'll be leading off as we take a look at the Boston lineup presented by your Southern Ford dealers. Mookie Betts, then Dustin Pedroia. Xavier Bogaerts, the shortstop, hits third in front of David Ortiz, then Hanley Ramirez and Travis Shaw. Chris Young in left hitting seventh in front of Ryan Hannigan doing the catching. Jackie Bradley Jr. in there in center field batting ninth.
Well, taking the mound tonight for the Tampa Bay Rays, left-hander Drew Smiley, and you'd like to see him keep the train rolling. We talked earlier about the fact that Drew Smiley had 3 starts against this Red Sox team a year ago, 18 in the third innings, 1 earned run, 24 strikeouts. He matches up very well with this lineup, and we'll see if he can keep it going.
Mookie Betts hitting .222 with a couple of home runs, leads off against Drew Smiley. His first pitch is upstairs. It's in there for a strike, 1-1.
Well, Drew Smiley, he sets a pace. Knows exactly what he wants to do. Right back up on the rubber, ready to go again.
There goes the bat on a swing and a miss. And he picks up his first strikeout. You got Betts to chase the breaking ball.
Well, that's what Drew Smiley can do, and that's why this Boston lineup, they see, I mean, more pitches than just almost any team in the game. I think they're 28th out of 30 teams in pitches seen per plate appearance. And so they allow pitchers, if they're throwing strikes, to get deep into counts. If you do that with Drew Smiley, there's just too many pitches that you have to account for.
Ball 1 to Dustin Pedroia. Veteran second baseman hitting .298 in the early stages of this season. It's 2-0. Smiley has had success against Pedroia, who's just 2 for 13 against him. And now he falls behind him, missing outside there. It's 3-0. He gets the called strike. Bogaerts on deck. Three and two. Well, the second baseman aggressive up there. You can see on Fox track there a couple of pitches that had Smiley falling behind, but you know those pitches look to be pretty good. Strike 3 call. Well, Smiley comes back to get Pedroia.
Nothing but fastballs. And I'll tell you what, that last one, the best of the bunch, because he went just above the knees right on the outside corner. That is a perfectly placed fastball. Jim Joyce gets a good look at it and makes his patented call.
And in most cases, Joyce so far tonight has shown the willingness to maybe open the strike zone. That one pitch that he called the ball was pretty close to the corner, but he seems to be willing to let these guys work the corners over.
It's cold down there, Dwight.
Good reason. 1 strike to Bogaerts, and here's a fly ball, not too deep to right. Souza Jr.'s there. Couple of strikeouts and a fly ball. 1, 2, 3. We got to the second inning scoreless. strikeouts with your own Chris Archer K-Counter bobblehead. Presented by Bright House Networks. Saturday, April 30th, fans receive the K-Counter bobble when the Rays take on the division rival Blue Jays. Call 888-FAN-RAYS or visit RaysBaseball.com for more info. Rays up. Well, Brad Miller will lead off against right-hander Heath Hembree. Joe Kelly worked 2/3, left with a physical issue. And here's Miller. Pitch is a strike. Jim Joyce willing to call strikes and announce them at the same time.
You never have to guess.
Yep.
Over the airwaves at the stadium.
1-1. The veteran umpire working the plate tonight. Toby Brasner at first, James Hoy at second, and Chad Fairchild down at third base. 1-2 on the fastball.
Well, what we've seen out of Hembree already, the fastball firm, 91, 92, that slider that he was able to get Desmond Jennings with, a very nice pitch, but he does a good job of hiding the baseball. You watch him when the arm comes out of the glove, it stays right behind his body. So that typically when a pitcher doesn't have that arm swing, a hitter doesn't pick it up, all of a sudden it's in the release point or at the release point and it's coming at you. You can't follow the arm swing. That adds to the deception.
And for a guy who's spent pretty much his entire career out of the bullpen, he gives you that fastball and a slider, but also has a couple other pitches to go to if he needs to, with a changeup and occasionally a curveball. This one is struck right back through the middle off a fastball, and Miller is aboard. Another base runner for the Rays, a single to open the second.
That's what you want to do. Now that it's going to be a long night for the bullpen, keep the pressure on. Base runners, opportunities. This pitch down, but middle of the plate down. And Brad Miller, a 2-strike approach, just goes right back up the middle.
Now Steven Souza Jr. Miller back in at first base. A little different look here defensively for the Red Sox. Ramirez over at first base this year. He had difficulties in the outfield last year, now at first. Shaw in the lineup. Travis Shaw had a great spring, was impressive last year, and has pretty much won himself a job at third base.
Pablo Sandoval had some issues in spring training, continues to have issues.
Now some kind of shoulder issue.
Yep.
It's been a little difficult to clarify his situation.
Well, he went and had it looked at, and something I had never heard before, that John Farrell said that the examination had to be cut short because he was too sore. Kind of, that's why you're being examined. I mean, the whole thing is strange,
Yep.
but there's no question that Travis Shaw was deserving of taking over that job. And guess what? The early returns on Hanley Ramirez at first base are encouraging for the Red Sox. He's handled that position well here the first couple weeks.
You know, he struggled in the outfield, as we all know, came up at shortstop. And you would think if you could play shortstop, you could play first base.
You would think. You would think. I mean, shortstop, the most demanding of the infield positions with the range, the throw, tough chances. You would think that would translate well to first base. Just learning the nuances, though, of the footwork around the bag is probably the most difficult part.
So they keep an eye on Miller. Two and two now. Now Ramirez really struggled in the outfield you look at those runs saved, for an example, the number that Kiermaier had last year in center field, 42, seems impossible to reach that level. He had that kind of year. Ramirez in left was a -19 last year. So they've attempted to address that. Full count. And as you point out, the initial returns from first base good this year for them.
He's handled all of his chances over there. He's putting the time in. I think that's something that Hanley Ramirez himself realized, is that he needed to work harder. Didn't put the time in last year in the outfield. Is doing it this year at first.
Miller goes. The pitch is skied into short left. Young comes in. The left fielder a better angle to make the catch. Bogarts was out there from shortstop. So one gone. Souza Jr. retired. And we'll see the left-handed bat of Kevin Kiermaier coming on.
He's already managed to destroy his eye black, and we're only in the second inning.
Well, Hembree in relief now, an emergency situation. The longest he's ever pitched in his career, 4 innings. And that was back in 2014 against the Angels. He made 62 pitches in that outing.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to watch John Farrell piece this one together. These are tough games. Anytime your starter has to leave, injury or otherwise, this early in a ball game, boy oh boy, do you put a burden on the bullpen.
Kiermaier takes a fastball for a strike. Headed for the stands. Shaw gives it a courtesy run over there, but it's well out of play. No breeze in the ballpark on a cool night. Temperature 52 at game time. Forecast calls for it to drop only into the upper 40s, maybe 48. But it has a certain chill to it here. Kiermaier out on strikes. An 0-2 slider. Both strikeouts coming on that pitch.
Well, Hembree, we've seen a fastball that's got some jump to it, and it's gotten better here in his second inning of work. But then you've got that pitch right there, that slider just bottoming out against Kevin Kiermaier. We've seen a couple of nasty sliders. That's a pitch that you know that he's going to go to when you get to 2 strikes.
Now it's Curt Casali. He's had a couple of base runners on walks in the first. Left them. Miller opened the second inning with a base hit. 2 outs, and he remains at first. Close pitch to open Casali. 1 ball, no strikes. There's a strike in there. Well, he's consistently at 93, 94.
Stays pretty quiet through his delivery. He's got that little hand twitch, that little rolling of the wrist as he brings his arm behind, and then really tries to finish strong out in front. That's where you get that late jump. his eye on Brad Miller. Last year, in 25 and a third innings of work, there were 4 stolen base attempts against Hembree, 2 successful.
Picked up the corner. Now it's 1-2.
Yeah, that's a tough pitch right there, because now you open yourself up to that, fastball 94, 88, 89 on the slider.
Good. An eye on Miller.
You wonder if he's throwing over because of the stirrups. I mean, when you wear that, you just look fast. You look old school, like you run, the old black and white. I wonder if that's what's causing all the throwovers on Miller.
Now that's a ball down and away. He did throw the slider out of the zone. No chase by Casale.
And it's a good enough pitch that in a 1-2 count, you could say, I'm going to throw it next pitch. If you can lay off, I'm going to throw it again. And if you can lay off, I'm going to throw it again. And you will not lay off that one. So we'll see. This looks like it's going to be something hard.
Runner goes. The pitch is a strike call. Casale caught looking. We go to the bottom of the second. No score.
Park, and let's set the Rays defense for you real quick. Brought to you by Gold and Diamond Source. In the outfield, left to right, we have Desmond Jennings, Kevin Kiermaier, and Steven Souza Jr. And across that infield, third to first, Evan Longoria, Brad Miller, Logan Forsythe, and Logan Morrison, with Kurt Casale behind the plate.
David Ortiz will open the bottom of the second inning. Big Papi, 40 years old, calling it quits as a player after this year. And Drew Smiley's first pitch to him is in there for a strike. Coors Cold Hard Facts, brought to you by Clean Crisp Coors Light. You see the all-time Red Sox rankings. 0-2 the count. That's a nice pitch there. 6th in games, 7th in hits, 3rd in doubles, 3rd in home runs, and 4th in runs batted in Boston Red Sox history.
And he still has another 150 games to add to those numbers.
A ball, 2 strikes. He's 5 of 11 against Smiley. about that pitch? He checked. Oh, well, they get the appeal.
That he struck him out twice because it was a pitch that was on the inside corner. Well, he didn't think that that appeal was going to be coming on David Ortiz here. Breaking ball that stays in, but yeah, he definitely got things started. Ooh, that's a borderline call right there, but someone has to lose out.
Well, that's a big out to get to open the inning. Big out to get in any case. Now it's Hanley Ramirez. 3 strikeouts for Smiley, and Ramirez looks at a strike. Smiley can do that to a lineup, however. But you're thinking about covering so much of the zone, and he'll get you a little uncertain up there. You start to chase, you think maybe not this time, and before you know it, you have gone around.
Well, that's why, again, you go back to the fact that if you let Drew Smiley work a count, he throws a lot of strikes. His walk rate very low, very good for a starting pitcher. So he's filling up the strike zone. He can get swings and misses, and he's got a lot of different options. And oh, by the way, he said coming into spring training he wanted to work on his changeup, make that more a part of the arsenal. Well, he's done that too, throwing that at a much higher rate than he's ever done.
On the right side, out of play. Still a 2-strike count.
Well, you just look at the possibilities. You understand why the Rays are so excited about Drew Smiley. He has the deceptive arm angle, up, down, in and out, curveball, cutter, fastball, changeup now.
And for all of those reasons, he's a fun pitcher to watch. If you're really into pitching, he's as much fun to watch as any pitcher, I think, in the league. There's a long one to right. Souza Jr. lined up to make the catch. A lot of territory out there. So you need somebody who can cover ground, and he got right there and waited on that one, Souza Jr.
Boy, it is huge out there. You think about the pesky pole, and then it juts out. You see right there in true right field, it gets out to 380, and then works its way up from there out to 420, the little niche in right center field. And you've got to crush a ball to get it out of here going the other way.
Well, they say the pesky pole is 302 down the line. And it seems closer than even that.
It's in your back pocket. The thing is you only got about a foot and a half to work with before it gets to 330, 340, all the way up to 380. You got to hook it right around that guy.
Travis Shaw with a 1-0 count. Off to a good start, had a good spring. 2-0. It's 2-1. David Price in a Boston uniform now. Smiley and Price involved in that deal. Price went to the Tigers and Smiley to the Rays. Smiley back even. And look at the strikes after he fell behind.
Dwayne, I mean, mind reader. He goes down and away pinpoint and then right to the inside corner.
Into center. Kiermaier right there. 1, 2, 3 go the Red Sox. We go to the third. Rays and the Red Sox scoreless. Sun is brought to you by Ram Trucks, Guts, Flooring, Ram. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by your Southern Chevy dealers. Top of the order for the Rays coming up here in the third. For Logan Forsythe, his first time to see Heath Hembree, who's in there in relief of Joe Kelly. First pitch is fouled out of play.
I think you're going to see more of that too, Dwayne. Hembree has shown himself to be able to command the ball around his zone, throw strikes, and he's only got 2 pitches that we've seen thus far. The fastball, the slider. So fastballs out over the plate early. Rays hitters will be taking their hacks.
A couple of pitches fouled back. Well, and why wouldn't I until he shows them a little something else? And the slider's been good.
Yeah, shown that ability to put you in a hole and then to put you away, weak contact or strikeouts with the slider. So back to the aggressive nature. By the way, a couple walks in the first inning. Those weren't fun to watch anyway.
Liner into right. Pence is there to make the catch.
Well, you look at the Rays this year, the pitching staff, their strikeout to walk ratio, they're punching out guys at a rate they've never done through this many games of a season. Same thing with the walk. They're walking fewer guys than they've ever walked. And on the flip side, the Rays hitters, getting those 2 walks was, I mean, that's a rarity.
Big deal.
Yeah, it really is. 2 in 1 inning. They average about 2 a game.
Well, they've come out of the chute here swinging this year.
Oh, boy.
The lineup. Logan Morrison. He takes the ball. Oh, maybe it might have been a curveball there to start him. And as we mentioned earlier, he does have that, but we have just seen that fastball and slider maybe until now.
There's another toy. He's got good stuff. You know, that slider, and that's one of those sliders that's so tight and it doesn't have a ton of depth. You could almost call that a cutter. It's almost like a hybrid. Good velocity on it. The good fastball with life. That curveball sharp.
High fly ball, right center field, but again, ton of room out there. Oh, a little mix-up between Betts and Bradley. Boy, that was almost disaster. So you got 2 good young outfielders out there, and just a little mix-up in communication. That ball almost dropped in.
Yeah, that would have been, well, even the way that play ended up, unacceptable. Someone has to take charge. And you see the late lean in right there by Jackie Bradley Jr. with Mookie Betts standing right there. And that saved the day for the Boston Red Sox. That would have been a double on a ball that was up in the air for a long time.
Longoria sending a fly ball back into deep left center, all the way to the wall, high off the wall. And Evan pulls up at second with a double. Longoria with a 2-base hit.
See, this feels right. This feels right. Rays hitters not wasting any time. And right there, fastball out over the plate. Let's go hunting. And this ball, he just about got it out of here. That's a towering shot. Not quite far enough.
Well, that's a 15-game hitting streak for Longoria here at Fenway. Well, you talk about hitters loving a ballpark. They love this one. And Evan is right there in line with the good hitters who do. So now he is at second base. 2 outs, and Corey Dickerson will bat. You know, we're talking about that fly ball to right center. Center fielder, anything over there, he's got to take charge and make no doubt about it.
You yell him. They call yelling a guy off the ball. I mean, you're coming in like gangbusters knowing that you're going to get there, and you make it very apparent to the other guy he better move it.
Dickerson pops it up on the infield, and that will retire the side. Bogart's taking care of it. Bottom of the third coming up. No score.
Fenway Park, still scoreless. And let's take a look at the Toyota keys to the success of Drew Smiley. And against the Red Sox since 2013, right there, look at that ERA. Everybody good on that list, but miles better than anybody else. And look at that, Marcus Stroman, Bud Norris, and with a minimum of 4 starts, that means Bud Norris have had to at least make 4 starts in that span, and then C.J. Wilson. So you can't beat that. He's cut Marcus Stroman's right in half. Had a .49 against him a year ago.
And tonight, so far, so good. Chris Young seeing time in left field against left-handed pitching for the Red Sox. A ball, no strikes. Well, the Rays hitters have been aggressive this year, wasting little time, and Smiley pitches the same way. He's ready to pitch almost as soon as the ball's back in his glove.
Well, when you have a real good idea of what you want to do and what pitch you want next, which just about every pitcher does, what are you waiting around for? You set the tone. You want that hitter to feel as uncomfortable as you can make him. Whether that's on the way that you're pitching him, a ball that's up and in, a quick tempo on the mound, force him right back into the box. Don't let him time to think.
Yeah, a pitcher who works quickly is like a close talker.
Yeah.
I mean, they're right in your face. Here, the next pitch. Oh, now, next pitch. You can't even have time to settle in the box. Here's the next pitch.
This is such a great analogy, and no one likes a close talker. Nobody.
Tough to deal with.
Personal space.
Yep. Yep. Well, a walk to Chris Young. Ryan Hannigan. The pitch too high to the veteran catcher Hannigan. Red Sox have their first base runner of the night. An infrequent walk given up. Smiley. Comes back with a strike. 1-1. Three strikeouts in the game, a couple in the first and one of Ortiz in the second. It's 2-1 on Hannigan. Neither Jim Joyce nor Hannigan would go after that pitch. Jackie Bradley Jr. on deck.
And we've seen Jim Joyce be very aggressive in his strike calling here in this ball game. Pitch right there on the borderline.
And ball 3.
The last 2 pitches, Drew Smiley has tried to throw that ball glove side with his body, not with his hand out in front, kind of pulling his body over that way to try to get it there. But when you do that, it actually works counterproductive. All of a sudden, your arm can't get to its release point. That's why those pitches have been up and away.
Big cut and a miss. Hannigan letting it out there on that 3-1 fastball.
And why not? I mean, the count is in your favor. You get a fastball, but Drew Smiley, enough height on this pitch, and it was close enough to him that he was able to get it over the swing.
Young on the move, and that is a ball low. Back-to-back walks. The Red Sox have a threat going here to open the bottom of the third.
Those 2 walks have now matched the season total for Drew Smiley. Had 2 walks in 13 2/3 innings coming into this start. So very rare for him.
And he faces Jackie Bradley Jr. now.
Well, and now you start to think about Jackie Bradley Jr. putting a bunt down. Left-handed hitter against Drew Smiley. That's a tough matchup. You've got 2 runners aboard, and you're about to roll the lineup over for the first time.
Takes a breaking ball, and it's low. 1-0. You know, Bradley last year hit 249. He struggled for a long time, got red hot, finished the year at 249. He hit over 300 against left-handed pitching last year. 306 against lefties and 221 against right-handed pitching. And he takes ball 2. Curveball, fastball, and it's 2-0.
Uncharacteristic, just having trouble finding the strike zone. Drew Smiley, it's not a matter of finding the zone typically for him. It's just what part of the zone are you going to go to? Right now, it can't get it anywhere in there. Oh.
2-1.
You know what? That's one of those pitches and swings that could get a pitcher right back on track, because this is ball 3, not even close. Right out of the hand, that ball's below the zone, and Jackie Bradley Jr. lets him off the hook.
There's a base hit into center. Kiermaier with a pickup. Young's going to stop at third. And the bases are loaded. Kiermaier charging that ground ball. And Bradley Jr. singles into center.
Boy, this inning right here becomes all about limiting damage. I mean, you're at the bottom third of the order, and you start off walk, behind in the count, come back with another fastball. Bradley Jr. right back up the middle. Not going to test the arm of Kiermaier with nobody out. And so now it's top of the order, bases juiced, nobody out. You have got to limit the damage. Hopefully you can weasel out of this without giving up anything, but you've got to hold them down here.
Well, it's Mookie Betts. He struck him out on a curveball in the first. Betts starts to go, checks, starts him with a curveball here for ball 1. One.
Try to take advantage of an aggressive hitter in an RBI spot, a changeup, and almost fell over the plate swinging at that one.
Ground ball third. Longoria comes home. They get the force there. Young cut down on the force play. Betts reaches on a fielder's choice.
Oh, that is huge. Tremendous pitching under duress there by Drew Smiley to get that ground ball to Longoria. Not going to have a chance to double up Betts, but you cut that run off at the plate, and you're another ground ball from maybe getting out of this inning.
Dustin Pedroia. Pitch to Pedroia is wide. Take a look at this play at the plate. That's pretty close.
Oh boy.
Sally.
The toe was out in front of the plate. It looked like the heel was not on home plate. Right there, the ball's not into the glove yet. Now ball into the glove. Is that heel touching the plate? That other angle looked like it was questionable at best, but Boston decides to not challenge.
Shot, look out.
Get
That
out.
one around the Rays dugout and then skipping up into the stands.
Hijinks in that dugout. They're laughing at somebody. It's all fun and games, Dwayne, until someone gets hurt.
That's right. I mean, you can smile now, but boy, that could be dangerous.
Everybody's in their winter gear.
It was 52 when this game started, by the way.
You know what? Doing that pregame show with Todd down there,
It's colder.
it didn't feel anything like 52, for goodness sake. You got the winter hats on. Steve Pearce has the, well, I think he left. He had the winter hat with the ski mask.
Foul. Sounded as if he broke his bat, and he did. Pedroia gets a new bat. Smiley finds himself in a bases loaded situation. Had him loaded, nobody out. Got the force play at the plate. Now they're loaded, one out.
That you can tell right there. Steve Pearce from Lakeland, Florida, and that proves it.
Pedroia going after that fastball up, fouled it.
And now Drew Smiley with the count in his favor. He's thrown a couple down and in. He raised that fastball top of the zone, middle of the plate. You covered top to bottom. Now you can go with the changeup. I mean, he can do almost anything he wants here just by the way that he has moved that ball around the zone.
And Pedroia lays off.
Yeah, that's a good take. That's a veteran pitch recognition.
Xavier Bogaerts on deck. Tough part of this lineup with the bases loaded. And now 2-2 to Pedroia. Pedroia getting time granted by Jim Joyce. Ground ball, foul outside of third. Started with a walk to Young. He eventually was forced at the plate. Hannigan's at third now. Bradley Jr. second. Betts on first. Ground ball short. Miller to second, one. First base, two. Smiley gets the double play ball, and the Rays get out of that. Bases loaded, nobody out jam on a couple ground balls, and the big one, the 6-4-3 double play off the bat of Pedroia. No score. And with nobody out, throw 2 ground balls, and that's exactly what Drew Smiley did.
And guess what? Drew Smiley not known for getting ground balls. He is a fly ball pitcher, but he came up with 2 in a big spot. We talked about limiting damage. How about that? Just keep it on a 0. That is just tremendous job by the Rays starter.
Desmond Jennings opens the 4th inning. Takes a fastball for a strike. Jennings was the first man to face Hembree when he took over for Kelly in the 1st. Desmond fell behind 1-2 and then missed the slider. 2, he fouled that one back. That was a slider that stayed up right there. He's thrown some really good ones. That one stayed up.
Yeah, those are the ones you want to jump on and make them pay for the mistake, but just a foul ball there by Desmond. And a foul ball to get you to an 0-2 count.
Soft liner caught by Pedroia. A look at Smiley and his handiwork.
Well, listen, 2 walks and a base hit. Bases loaded right there at Jim. That was a nice sequence there to Betts. Get the force play at home and then an extended at bat, but another pitch down in the zone. A little double clutch there by Brad Miller, but he makes a good flip, a good turn by Logan Forsythe, and you are out of the inning. I think that's a better result than we even thought was possible with who was coming up with the bases loaded, nobody out. To put up a 0, what a boost to your club.
Well, here is Brad Miller, who singled in the 2nd inning. Takes a strike. Jim Joyce still in good voice.
Could you imagine him behind the plate with laryngitis?
Just it wouldn't be him.
It wouldn't work.
Oh, 2.
It sure beats. You remember Tim McClellan?
Yes.
When everybody in the ballpark would guess what the call would be because he would whisper it. 1001, 1002, and then the arm would come out.
Yeah, you had fans debating over whether it was a ball or a strike, and then he would settle it about what seemed like 30 seconds later.
You could play it like a fun little game with that.
You could. Not that anyone would around this game, but you could. No games of chance here. Certainly not the way we would play. It's fouled back. Still 2 strikes. So Brad Miller down in the count. Rays at Fenway Park tonight, beginning a 3-game series. Now a ball and 2 strikes. Souza Jr. on deck. Still a ball, 2 strikes. It's a 6-pitch at bat. This pitch count coming in after Kelly left with the injury. And we mentioned Hembree in his career. The longest he had pitched 4 innings, it was a little over 60 pitches. And he had just 31 at the end of the 3rd. So he's given the Red Sox some innings here, and he strikes out Miller after the starting pitcher left 4 hitters into the game. So this has been a lift for the Red Sox.
A huge lift. I mean, put into a really tough situation. Hembree has come in, and you talked about how efficient he's been, how effective he's been, and he's been pitching tonight. Makes you ask yourself, why was he recalled today?
Yeah, what was he doing in Pawtucket as well as he's pitching here tonight.
I'm sorry.
Steven Souza Jr. 1 ball, no strikes. A 2-0 count to the Rays right fielder. There's ball 3. Popped up. Short center. The shortstop Bogart's out, making the catch. We're headed into the bottom of the 4th from Fenway. Scoreless. Park, Boston. Here's your chance to get a steal, fans. Tonight's steal of the evening features an exclusive Rays shirt with any ticket purchase to the game Monday, April 25th. Available tonight only. Visit RaysBaseball.com/steal or call 888-FAN-RAYS for more information. Drew Smiley got out of a big spot, bases loaded, nobody out in the bottom of the 3rd, now in the 4th. Xander Bogaerts leads it off, hits it on the ground to Forsythe at 2nd. So the Red Sox shortstop, Xander Bogaerts, out of there. Joe Kelly left this game after 2/3 of an inning with what's referenced as a right shoulder impingement.
You could see him rolling that shoulder, especially when he started to let it loose. And maybe we should have, you almost see that coming early in a game when he was kind of short-arming those pitches. Looked like he was aiming those pitches, just not feeling fully comfortable to let it go. Once he did, it flared up.
1 to count to David Ortiz. John Farrell and Carl Willis together in the dugout for the Red Sox. High pop foul. Casale hoping he'll have room, but no chance. So the count is 1-2. So the shoulder impingement forcing Joe Kelly out of this game. He had some time on the disabled list early last year with a strained right bicep. It's upstairs, 2-2. A piece of that one to stay alive for David Ortiz. Deck is Hanley Ramirez. And a cut in the miss. Ortiz out on strikes. Had a little late movement on it.
Yeah, a little cutter, 87 miles an hour. The cut very subtle, the location perfect.
Out and a strikeout. Xander Bogaerts grounding out to second. David Ortiz striking out swinging. Here's Ramirez. Hanley Ramirez takes the pitch wide. Strikes on some action. Left-hander Robbie Ross Jr. throwing in the bullpen for Boston. Tapper foul 1-2. Takes care of Ramirez. Out on strikes in 1-2-3. Go the Red Sox. No score. On to the fifth. Great moment on this date in 2010. The Rays complete their first four-game sweep of the Red Sox in club history, outscoring Boston 24-9 in that series sweep here at Fenway Park.
Yeah, that's not easy to do. Any kind of a sweep, especially a 4-gamer here.
Well, here's Kevin Kiermaier fouling it back. Yeah, that's not, it's never been easy. You know, the Red Sox had a long run when, frankly, they weren't very good. And it was difficult to do that then. And they've had a nice run of success we've seen. And recently, you know, they've struggled over the last 3 or 4 seasons. But, you know, they're always tough here and figure to contend again. Kiermaier rolls it to second. And is thrown out by Pedroia. Red Sox got a big lift from Heath Hembree tonight. He had to take over for Joe Kelly.
Yeah, in the first inning, he's got to step in a tough situation. Runners on base, and he went right to work. He showed a very good fastball with some late life in that 94 range. And the slider was very good. Broke out a couple of curveballs as a show-me pitch. He was very impressive.
Sally a check swing and a foul ball. Robbie Rouse Jr. in there, their third pitcher for John Farrell. You know, Red Sox had the 97 win season at 13. They finished last 3 of the last 4 seasons. And even those years, not easy to come in here and sweep a 4-game series, much less win a series. I mean, it's tough.
That's the man pulling the strings now, Dave Dombrowski.
Yeah, they've changed the approach a little bit. Less on sabermetrics now and more on evaluating what you see. And information's always going to be in one form or another an important part of this game. You know, as much, there's strike 3 call. As much as scouting was maligned by so many people when Moneyball came out, that became the rage. Scouting was about information. You know, depended on the quality of information you got, but it always comes back to the quality of information you get that matters. Apparently the Red Sox now changing courses.
Maybe being a little bit too over-reliant. Well, he made a big move this offseason. David Price being brought in. See him in the day game Thursday. But I think anytime, the analytics really have become in vogue around the league, and now you look for that happy medium. What's the blend going to be where the analytics and the eye test? Numbers can tell me a lot of wonderful things. Maybe the guy, maybe the matchup's not so good right now because the guy's struggling for who knows what reason. But what will the blend be of analytics and eyes from the dugout, eyes in the sky?
There's a base hit up the middle for Forsythe.
Because those numbers are here to stay and probably going to be added to.
Yeah, and I think they should be. I think every team is looking for whatever edge they can find. And if edge is in the information, you've got to go after it. It just makes sense to do that. I think there is a blend there. I've always felt that having the right people, the right eyeballs evaluating makes a lot of sense. And collecting and quantifying all the data you can makes a ton of sense as well. Logan Morrison takes the pitch down. Logan Forsythe is aboard at first. 2 outs here in the 5th.
I think where it becomes difficult is a lot of the eyeballs are of the old school thought about baseball. The new school, the new guys in the game right now relying heavily on the analytics. I think sometimes you get those situations where they look at each other not fully trusting the other side. How do you work together all being on the same page? That, I think, is the challenge now, and the people that can figure that out quicker are going to be at an advantage.
Yeah. Morrison waiting on Ross, and now he's in the hole. Behind in the count, 1-2.
That's a dirty breaking ball by Robbie Ross Jr. right on the outside corner. He throws it hard.
It's a 2-2 count. Fly ball toward left center field. Bradley over there in front of the scoreboard making the catch. And the Rays leave a man after the base hit by Forsythe. Scoreless, middle of 5. The bottom of inning 5. Drew Smiley back to the hill. Drew found himself in trouble in the 3rd, pitched himself right out of it. Retired the middle of the order, 1, 2, 3 in the 4th. And here's Travis Shaw beginning the bottom of the 5th. First pitch, soft strike, that curveball in there to start it. Well, you'll see one look after another here from Smiley.
Well, that's why this Red Sox lineup has to be absolutely kicking themselves. Drew in that inning, walks the 7 and 8 hitter, the base hit to Jackie Bradley Jr., the 9-hole, bases loaded, top of the order, and they get nothing to show for it. And now Drew Smiley, with a little wind in his sails now, a little bounce in his step, is going right back to work.
He strikes out Shaw. Started him with a curveball, finished him with a fastball. Been a good night so far for Drew Smiley.
It really has. I mean, we've seen it all. We've seen him dominant. That breaking ball right there, losing the bat. We've seen him precise on the corner. We've seen him in tight spots. The bases loaded, nobody out. This would be the one that finished it off from Dustin Pedroia. Right there, right back to the corner with another quality pitch. Look at how many different ways he's gotten guys out. There's a first pitch change. We just saw this, the cutter slider, saw the curveball. We've seen the elevated fastball, the fastball down to Pedroia.
He's ahead of Chris Young, 0-2. Change up curveball, 0-2.
That's just fun. It's just fun to watch. Like you said earlier. I mean, just look at that. Just one after the other.
And Young did go, and he'll be tagged out On that ball in the dirt, tagged out by Casale.
They'll take the breaking ball below the zone. And they're saying Chris Young went a little bit too far. Kurt Casale make that tag. 2 down.
Well, since he loaded the bases, he's thrown 2 ground balls that got him out of that, a ground ball to open the 4th, and now 4 consecutive strikeouts. So here's Ryan Hannigan. That's a strike. So his first pitches to the 3 hitters in this inning: curveball, first pitch Shaw; changeup, first pitch Young; fastball, first pitch Hannigan. What are you going to look for next? 1-1 the count. Two balls and a strike. Two and two.
That was a 91-mile-an-hour fastball. And if you didn't see that reading on the screen, the swing of Hannigan would have told you 95, 96. That's how he lulls you to sleep with the breaking ball, the changeup, the previous 2 pitches, and then just a 91-mile-an-hour fastball and blows it right by you.
See another 2-2 pitch here. Granted by Jim Joyce. That's foul. To left, Jennings there. It's a 1-2-3 inning. We head into inning 6, scoreless. Here's what's coming up tomorrow on Rays Live, the pregame show presented by your Gold Coast Honda dealers. Todd Caldas will take a tour inside the Green Monster and autograph it. We'll hear from Chris Archer Archer will oppose Rick Porcello tomorrow. We'll be with you at 6:30. So a lot going on the telecast tomorrow. Evan Longoria takes the first pitch in the 6th. Robbie Ross Jr. facing Longoria. Ross, the 3rd pitcher of the night.
Now, what that camera shot showed, it showed Todd signing his name. Didn't show what he wrote before that.
Maybe we should find out tomorrow.
I think, yeah. I think I have an idea.
Really?
I do. I think that there was a, just kind of like for a good, for a good time.
I got you. Yeah.
One of those type deals.
Sure.
8 p.m. sharp.
It'll be quite an adventure tomorrow inside the Green Monster for Todd Callis. Little tap right back to the hill. Whoa, a high throw, and he did not get back to the bag in time. Ramirez left the bag, and Longoria is aboard. The Red Sox want to take a little time, and they want to take a look at it.
Yep. Torey Lovullo telling John Farrell that they think that he got back to the bag. We'll see. Tap. And they may have a case here. This will be interesting to see. Certainly off there and off there. And then the reach back. Is it going to be clear enough?
Well, we'll see what the decision is, but the Red Sox have decided to challenge it, and they obviously think that they have a case. The call down there is safe, and we'll see if that remains the case. And the call is out. You can see the old reach back with the left foot. So Longoria is out number 1. Red Sox challenged it. It's amazing how difficult that pitcher first play can be.
I mean, you've got a guy standing out on the mound right now on a slope, angled down, that can throw that ball within an inch or two of where he wants to almost every time. And then you field one, you turn, all you got to do is just get it anywhere near the body over there at first base, and you can be all over the place. It is, and we see it all the time.
Dickerson took a big cut at that first pitch and missed it. Dickerson anxious to come to Fenway. He had played here in his rookie season. Played in the game when he was with the Colorado Rockies in interleague play.
Well, he's going to get to see an awful lot of this place over the course of the next 5.5 months.
Hits a ball, 2 strikes. So that mid-90s fastball from the Boston lefty. Enough of that one to stay alive. Rays left a couple men on in the first, had a chance then. Longoria doubled with 2 outs in the third. He was left on. They left a single runner in the second and a single man on in the fifth. Red Sox had their threat in the third. Dickerson is out on strikes. So 2 up, 2 down, bases empty. Todd Callis has more to add on the foray into the Green Monster.
Yeah, Dwayne, been fielding a lot of phone calls, but it is really tiny in there inside the Green Monster. There's not a lot of room at all for the guys that work those scoreboards. It's amazing that they always update those scoreboards from in there, but there you see it. I did look for BA's signature. Unfortunately, I think it's been expunged from the wall. I did not find it, guys.
And I didn't get a single phone call.
It's always good to have things expunged. And that's Todd's terminology. He must be familiar with not only that term, but maybe that process. Expunged. One strike the count. Desmond Jennings facing Robbie Ross Jr.
Todd is our version of Tobias Funke.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. I'll explain it to you.
Okay.
It's really good.
I can't wait. Two balls and a strike. Three and one. So hitters count now for Desmond Jennings. And he shoots it foul. It's 3-2. With 3 hits tonight. They've drawn a couple walks. Red Sox have 1 hit and they've drawn a couple bases on balls. 3-2. Fouled again, out of play. Had a home run Saturday, his first extra base hit of the year. A full count against the lefty here in Boston. Line shot, one hop, grabbed by Shaw. He recovers and the throw to first in time. 1, 2, 3 go the Rays in the 6th. Shaw battled it down at third, made the play. This game remains without a run. Bottom of the sixth, Duke Energy proud to support the Rays and Tampa Bay area veterans. For every game the Rays win, Duke Energy donates $1,000 to area agencies working in support of our veterans. Duke Energy, powering Florida with more than just energy. They're supporting our veterans and other local charities as well. Rays up. Jackie Bradley Jr. leading off, and there's a first pitch strike. High popper on the right side. Souza coming in. Forsythe out there and makes the catch. Forsythe was already stationed on the grass and made that catch. Now we'll go back to the top of the order. Smiley has retired the leadoff man in every inning with the exception of the third when he walked Young and followed that with a walk to Hannigan. Bradley singled to load the bases, and then Smiley got out of that with a ground ball, a couple of ground balls, one a double play ground ball. Strike to count to Betts. The third, the only inning in which the Red Sox have had a base runner. 2 walks and a single in that inning. One and one. Now a ball and 2 strikes. He did go and is tagged out. Casale blocking that pitch, keeping it in front of him. So on the breaking ball, Betts is out on strikes.
Boys, this game continues to move on. Now the third time through the order, Drew Smiley just continues to get better and better, if that's possible. I mean, really confusing these hitters. You're getting Mookie Betts, a guy that does a nice job of staying back on breaking balls, committing to pitches that are well out in front of him in the dirt.
8 strikeouts for Smiley, and he starts Pedroia with a breaking ball for strike 1. Ball 1 strike. So 10 in a row. He's retired since he gave up the base hit to Bradley back in the third. Ground ball to third. Longoria's throw right on the money. 1, 2, 3 again. Go the Red Sox. We're headed into the 7th inning scoreless. Fenway Park, opening game of the series and this road trip. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you've come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Just visit MLB.TV for details. Two innings for Robbie Ross Jr. Brad Miller leads off the 7th. It's fouled the other way, out of play. Souza Jr. will follow, and then Kevin Kiermaier. So a couple of left-handed bats due up in this inning against Ross Jr., who throws a strike, a fastball.
Well, you get to this part of the game, scoreless, 7th inning, every pitch magnified. The Rays have been in a number of these games already this season.
A ball, 2 strikes. Miller out on strikes, 3rd strikeout for Robbie Ross Jr. Steven Souza Jr. First pitch strike, fastball. Souza Jr. behind that fastball, 94.
That's where that little bit of extra velocity, you know, can kind of cover up poor location. They wanted that ball away. That was right down the middle, but 95, he gets it by him.
Big cut and a miss. Fastball again.
I'll tell you what, the pitchers here tonight, Drew Smiley on the Rays side and real everybody from Boston. Joe Kelly had a big strikeout before he had to exit the game. Hembree was outstanding. Robbie Ross Jr. since coming in has been tremendous. Just overpowering him with the fastball.
Kevin Kiermaier puts it 1 low. High fly ball, center field. That's going to send Bradley back to the track, but he has room and makes the catch, retiring the side. Middle of the 7th inning. No score. Rays and the Red Sox opening their 3-game series in a scoreless matchup to this point. Middle of the 7th inning, Drew Smiley with 8 strikeouts. He's given up a couple of walks and 1 hit. Both the walks and the hit in the same inning. Joe Kelly left with a shoulder impingement. Red Sox had to go to the bullpen in the first. Bottom of the 7th inning is underway. Xander Bogaerts fouls the second pitch out of play, and the count is 1-1. Bogaerts had a fly ball to right in the first and a ground ball to second in the fourth. He did not go on the appeal. Toby Brasner down at first. Jim Joyce working the plate tonight. The foul ball. Smiley has not been afraid to use the fastball tonight. That last one was right down the middle, and Bogaerts fouled it back. He's had great location with almost every pitch he's thrown tonight.
And knowing when to go with what pitch.
Like that.
Like exactly what I was thinking. I'll tell you, he just he is on top of his game. I don't know if you can see a Drew Smiley that's much better than what we've seen tonight. Just moving the ball around the zone, another off-speed pitch right there, and after the fastball that was down the middle, you come with that changeup, and you're just, the guy starts it a little bit too early.
Here is David Ortiz. Bouncer foul. Well, action in the Rays bullpen. Cedeno, the lefty, Webb, the right-hander. Smiley a little over 90 pitches. Ortiz tied up, fouls it. 0-2. And he gets him on 3 pitches. Back-to-back strikeouts here in the 7th.
Very similar to a cutter that he victimized him on earlier in the game. Just a perfect spot and set up well after the fastball that was in. Then you go below the knees and just off the plate with late action.
Well, he's reached double figures in strikeouts. Two up, 2 down in the 7th. Here's Hanley Ramirez. There's a ball. Tazawa, the right-hander, up in the Boston bullpen. Ground ball third. Longoria gloves, turns, and throws. And it's another 1-2-3 inning. That's 14 in a row retired by Smiley. No score. Sun, brought to you by Ram Trucks, Guts, Glory, Ram. By Tampa Bay Radiation Oncology. When cancer strikes, strike back with CyberKnife. And by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. From Fenway Park, the Rays and the Red Sox have no score. Headed into the 8th inning, Drew Smiley has been perfect in every inning except the 3rd, when he walked the first 2 men and gave up a base hit. And he was perfect in getting out of that. Bases loaded, nobody out, jammed on a couple of ground balls, facing Mookie Betts and Dustin Pedroia. We have no score moving into the 8th inning, and Shinichi Tozawa is the new pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. Don't forget, fans, tomorrow, Wednesday night showdown presented by Mazda, when the Rays take on the Red Sox. We'll be with you at 6:30. And that masked man right there, Chris Archer, will be on the mound. The Rays stocking cap, a fashionable item in that Rays dugout. Kurt Casale, the first man to face Tozawa. The pitch is low. Tozawa was 2-7 last year in 61 games with a .414 earned run average. And the Rays had some success against him. That's a strike now, 1-1. Sally behind in the count.
Well, it's tough when that pitch is right. That split finger, you get that kind of bottoming out action.
He did not go. 2-2. Tozawa with a fastball and then that splitter. We will see a slider from him on occasion. And maybe a curveball, but not very often. Mostly fastball and the split. Erasmo Ramirez limbering in the bullpen. Driven foul. Deep but well out of play. Forsythe next, and then Morrison due up. Casale out on strikes. Splitter got him.
Now the splitter, just another version of a changeup, and all you're doing is getting your power fingers from behind the baseball. Although with that split finger, you get that tumbling, diving action. And Tozawa, you sell it with the good arm speed, and all of a sudden that ball darts downward into the zone late. So hard if it's executed properly to lay off of and to make contact with. You got to hope he hangs it.
Here's Logan Forsythe. Logan's been on twice tonight with a walk and a single. First pitch is a strike. The Rays have had just 5 base runners tonight. Red Sox have had 3, lost one of those on a double play. Foot out of the way, and it's 1-1. Rays got Longoria to second with 2 outs when he doubled in the third. Forsythe was at second after he walked, and then 1 out later Longoria walked. All of that in the first inning. Red Sox did get a man as far as third when they loaded the bases in the third. That's been about it offensively. That's a strike on the corner.
Wow, at 95. And you could see where Hannigan was set up. He was almost off the plate. Really, really wanted that pitch away. And look where he's set up. I mean, hanging off that outer edge. But he splits them, and that call goes his way from Jim Joyce, who has kind of set that tone, you know, from the early going, that he is not afraid to call strikes here tonight. Some further.
2-2. Tazawa, pitcher number 4 for Boston. Logan Morrison on deck. Forsythe 2 of 6 in his career against Tazawa. It's ball 3. Bounds up on to the screen and into the stands. The count is full.
I'll tell you, Forsythe gives you such a good at-bat. You know, he trusts his hands, so he has a good 2-strike approach.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day, and his hands are so quick.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. And that gives him that split second longer to recognize a pitch and to lay off of it. We've already seen that, you know, earlier in the ball game, taking that walk off Joe Kelly in the first inning, laying off some close pitches after being down in the count.
On him, and he fouls it away. Fastball had a little something behind it on a cool night.
Yeah, yes, it does. Blistering tonight, 95. Not an easy pitch to fight off either.
They have come prepared for the weather. Ball 4. So for the second time tonight, Forsythe works a walk. And he really did work for that one.
Down in the count once again. Took some very good pitches. You think about that first 1-2 curveball by Tazawa that was just off. Good take there, then a splitter down and in, fight off 95, take another curveball, get yourself on base. There haven't been too many of these guys here tonight.
Logan Morrison looking for his first hit tonight and facing Tazawa for the first time. Runner goes, swing and a miss. Throw is not going to be in time. A stolen base for Forsythe, not wasting any time on the breaking ball to get down there and into scoring position.
Well, Tazawa has been starting all these hitters with the breaking ball, so Logan picks the right pitch to go on, gets a very good jump, and really they did not have a chance. The only hope here is if Logan Forsythe comes off the bag, which he did not. Now you give yourself 2 shots at it.
So the Rays have a man in scoring position for the first time since Longoria doubled with 2 outs in the third. Morrison now down 0-2. Tough pitch.
It is, and what that does is, it being an 0-2 count, you tell Tazawa, go ahead and throw me that pitch again, because there was no recognition of it right there as it bottoms out and works its way away from him. So you would expect Tazawa to go right back to that pitch. Why not?
It's blocked by Hannigan. That's exactly what he did.
Well, you'd be foolish not to. You know what I mean? You open yourself up. You throw a curveball there, a fastball, and Morrison fights it off and drops it in somewhere, and you kick yourself. You're sitting there going, he just took a terrible swing at a pitch that wasn't near the zone. Why in the world did I veer from that? Now's where it gets interesting. Do you go back to it again?
And he strikes him out. The answer would be yes.
Well, when you swing at that pitch to get to 2 strikes, you almost expose the fact that you didn't recognize it, and you're going to have trouble laying off of it. And so Tazawa, 2 more, and was able to put him away. You see that ball? Look at it. In the zone, start the swing, gone.
Yeah, and that's the best one he threw of all of them.
Yes.
That's a pretty good pitch right there.
That's right. And that was a great shot from that center field camera, showing how long it stayed in the strike zone. Looked like it was at the knees, at the knees, at the knees. And then you see the bat start to come into the shot, and the ball's not there anymore.
Now Evan Longoria swings through it, strike 1. Tazawa against Longoria. Evan 5 of 17 in this matchup. Longoria has walked and doubled. Forsythe on second with his lead. 2, another splitter.
Well, we talked about the fact that the Rays, had the highest swing percentage of any team in Major League Baseball, and you're looking right now at the Rays' most aggressive swinger this season. I know it's early, but Evan has come out bound and determined to get his hacks in. And 2 here on balls in the dirt, finds himself now down 0-2.
And he got him. Longoria out on strikes. Tazawa stayed with the split. No score, middle of the 8th. Fenway Park in Boston, Rays fans. If you can't watch the games on TV, you can now stream games live on your mobile device. Just go to your app store, download the free Fox Sports Go app, log in and stream the Rays wherever you go. Drew Smiley back to work here in the bottom of the 8th against Travis Shaw. And there's a first pitch strike with a curveball. Smiley has retired 14 in a row, 7 innings of work tonight, 10 strikeouts. 1-1 to count. Two and one. It's a strike. 2-2. Drew now at 99 pitches. He made 99 in his first start against Toronto and 104 in his last start against Cleveland. And he strikes out Shaw. Fastball up around 93. The fastball up. 15 in a row retired. That's his 11th strikeout. Let's check in with Todd.
Dwayne, coming up after the game, it'll be our Rays Live post-game show presented by Checkers. We will hear from Drew Smiley, who continues to like pitching in this ballpark. Kevin Cash as well. It'll be all part of our clubhouse interviews hosted right here in Boston by you two. Back to you.
All right, well, here we go. We've got quite a game going on right now in the 8th. Chris Young has walked and struck out, and there's a first pitch strike to him. A 1-strike count. Popped up. Foul ball. Who's going to get this one? In a hurry. Smiley and Morrison collide, and it's Smiley who makes that catch. Smiley hustling in foul territory to make the grab.
And I guarantee you, Drew Smiley's going to look over and see Paul Harker and manager Kevin Cash coming out. This ball is going to be tough. Like a little triangle here. And what concentration there by Drew Smiley. Able to make that catch, get clipped by Logan Morrison. Someone's got to come in there and make a play. Got rolled over and told trainer Paul Harker and manager Kevin Cash to head back to the dugout. I'm fine.
How about that? Look at this.
That is just outstanding concentration and great hustle to get there.
You know, he got that pitching hand down to try to brace himself, and he wasn't falling on the grass either. There's a first pitch strike to Hannigan. Another first pitch strike.
And on top of that, every manager and trainer thinks that pitchers are made out of glass. I mean, anybody else makes a sliding catch, no one's coming out of the dugout. But if it's a pitcher, his hand hit the dirt.
11 strikeouts tonight. He had 11 against the Indians, which equaled his career single game high. So he's done that again tonight.
You know, when I played for the Diamondbacks, that's all the position players referred to pitchers as kickers.
Oh, a long one off the bat of Hannigan. Back to the wall, and it's Jennings to make the catch to retire the side. 3 up, 3 down. 17 in a row retired by Smiley. We'll take a look at Smiley's great catch in foul territory. So he's doing it all. Give him a bat, let him hit. No score onto the 9th. for Drew Smiley. He's done about everything you could ask him to do, including make that great catch in foul territory in the bottom of the 8th. 105 pitches tonight, 11 strikeouts. For the second consecutive start, he has 11 Ks. He's done a great job.
Well, he has just been so fun to watch. I mean, we've been talking about it the whole game, and you hate to beat a dead horse, but my goodness, he's just been masterful in not only his game planning, but the execution of it.
8 innings, 7 perfect innings. And now he's retired 17 in a row. And the only hit was the Jackie Bradley Jr. base hit. And here's Craig Kimbrel. He's the closer, pitcher number 5, makes his 8th appearance.
Well, there's not going to be a save opportunity for the Red Sox here tonight, so you bring in the big gun in the top of the 9th, and here he is.
Corey Dickerson will face him. Goes after the first one and lofts a high popper, shallow center. Bradley Jr. makes the catch. Kimbrel, 27-year-old right-hander, struggled a bit yesterday against the Blue Jays.
He came into a bases-loaded situation, struck out Edwin Encarnacion on 3 pitches, the last one registering 99, but then the walk to Tulowitzki, and then Russell Martin in a prolonged at-bat, fouling off some tough pitches, able to flip that ball into right field. Tough day for the Boston closer.
Now Desmond Jennings takes a pitch down. It's 1-0. Kimbrel 23 pitches in that outing yesterday. Had a stretch, as you know, with the Braves. Big time saves over there last year in San Diego. A 1-1 count. Jennings checked. Ball 2. 2-1. Kimbrel with Atlanta had a run of 46, 42, 50, and 47 saves. 39 with the Padres last year. It's a foul ball that catches Hannigan. And the count is 2-2. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Cool night.
That kind of velo, right straight in the square in the face mask.
That one hits Jennings on the hand. Desmond Jennings hit by the pitch. And the Rays will come out. Paul Harker and Kevin Cash to take a look at Jennings' hand.
That back forearm. Just below the wrist, it looked like. That ball just kept riding and tailing in. Boy, you talk about a cool night, that kind of velocity, what that felt like.
Rays have a base runner, 1 out. Brad Miller is the hitter. strike. Miller 1 for 3 tonight. Does have one official at bat in his career against Kimbrel, and he has a hit.
See how aggressive Desmond Jennings gets with the lead. Kimbrel keeping an eye on him. You know, this is the type of ball game that you've got to try and make something happen. There have been very few opportunities. And so all of a sudden you've got a potential base stealer at first base.
Ground ball right side. Pedroia goes to second. Wide throw, safe at first. Jennings is forced.
And this is the new day and age of baseball where instead of it just being a double play that wasn't turned, now we've got to go out and see about the slide.
So the Red Sox have that conversation going. Here's another look.
Desmond Jennings, let's see, is he going straight into the bag? He came off the back of the bag. I mean, this is one of those situations where they say, okay, you slide straight in, fine, but do you stay on the bag? He comes clean off of the bag. And that is, we'll see. Talk about maintaining contact with the bag, and we're gonna go take a look. This is what you absolutely cannot stand about this rule.
Yeah, the whole idea of coming off the bag.
Oh my goodness.
They probably at the very least need to do something about that end of it.
I mean, please. Because if they follow it to the letter, he came off the back of the bag. They're going to call him out. Slide. Look at that hand. The hand. And look at Kevin Cash already has that look like you're kidding me.
Yeah.
But
well, and he has to make a straight path to the bag.
Right. And maintain contact.
Yeah. Well, so, he made a straight path to the bag.
Right. Did that gloved hand slide off the back edge of second base?
So this one being looked at. Will the Rays have a runner at first and 2 outs? Kimbrel continues to stay loose on a very cool night in Boston. So we'll see. You know, the element of whether you stay on the bag or not is akin to whether you made a catch a few years ago and ran 5 or 6 feet with it, and then the ball popped away. So he's out at second and safe at first.
Oh, hey, how about that? A little common sense.
So Miller reaches on what turns out to be a fielder's choice.
You know, it's just the simple fact that you even have to go to review over this. Over this. We have to go review that.
Well, maybe if there are enough reviews where it comes back that he's out at second and safe at first, they'll stop asking for that review. One would hope, because you've got a stoppage in play that interrupts the rhythm of the game. And for what? Here is Steven Souza Jr. with a man at first and 2 outs. It's fouled back for a strike. Souza getting his first look at Kimbrel. Kimbrel, the 5th Boston pitcher, and a move to first. Miller's back in. It's 1-1 now. Time granted to Souza Jr. Scoreless ball game in the 9th in Boston. Strike on the corner. 1-2. One-two pitch. Popped up right side, shallow right, bets in toward the line, makes the catch. Rays leave a man in the 9th inning, bottom of the 9th coming. No score. Ramirez taking over for Drew Smiley, and Smiley just could not have been much better than he was.
No, hey, Drew Smiley was absolutely masterful. Period. End of discussion. He got himself into trouble. You go back into that, what was it, the 3rd inning where he 7, 8, 9. You had a walk, and a base hit by Jackie Bradley Jr., but he would wiggle his way out of that, and then actually as the game continued to progress, he got better and better and better. His pitches were sharp, his location even above that.
He retired the last 17 men he faced. First pitch by Ramirez is a strike. Bradley has the only hit tonight for Boston. That was the single in the 3rd to load the bases. So 8 innings for Drew Smiley, 105 pitches. He struck out 11, matching a career high. walked 2 and gave up 1 hit, no runs. Matt Barnes in the bullpen for Boston. Roller right side out of the shift, and the shortstop Miller over there to make the play. So the Rays using the shift to retire Bradley Jr. Mookie Betts. Betts 0 for 3. A couple of strikeouts against Smiley. This pitch is a strike. Oh, what a play at third. Longoria up with it to throw him out. Sharply hit ball. Evan leaving his feet to make that play. Nicely done by Longoria to keep Betts off the bases.
And even more impressive was the fact that he was even with the bag. So he's playing in. And this ball gets ripped. And you see where he's at. Very little time to react, and a heck of a play by the Gold Glover.
The first pitch strike to Pedroia. Weatherman lied to us. The low was supposed to be 48 overnight. It's 46 right now.
Feels like 6.
It does. Pitch foul out of play, and it's 0-2 to Pedroia. Cedeno, Xavier Cedeno up in the bullpen. And a cut and a miss. Pedroia aggressively after that 0-2 pitch strikes out on the change of pace. We go to the 10th inning. No score in this one.
Here at Fenway Park, still scoreless, a combined 4 hits. And let's go back to the turning point in this game. With very little offense, and that was the bottom of the 3rd inning. Bases loaded, nobody out. A great sequence to Betts. You get the force out at home, and then a prolonged at-bat with Dustin Pedroia, a well-located fastball, and you get the 6-4-3 double play to get out of the bases loaded, nobody out jam without giving up a thing. And that's where we still sit right now.
And the Rays will see another Boston pitcher, Matt Barnes. Makes his 6th appearance, 25-year-old right-hander. So Kimbrel in for an inning, hit a man, that was it. And Kevin Kiermaier will open the 10th inning against Barnes. Barnes threw the 9th inning Sunday against Toronto, gave up a run on 3 hits. Kiermaier 0 for 3 tonight. Missed the fastball, and that had a little giddy up. 97 from Barnes. That one, the breaking ball, dropped low. That fastball at 97 and the breaking ball at 83. He also has a changeup in his repertoire of pitches. Drops that one in for a strike, 1 and 2.
Well, we have seen on a very unpleasant evening, we have seen pitchers sharp with the stuff all around.
Into the dirt, 2 and 2.
That's taking a good curveball and then trying to make it great. And typically when you do that, it does not turn out the way that you would like. And now at 2 and 2, you've got to make a quality pitch here.
That's a foul ball. The count remains square at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Kelly worked 2/3. Heath Hembree pitched 3 1/3 and really picked up the night for Boston, just coming up from AAA. Ross Jr. 3 innings, Tazawa 1, Kimbrel 1, and now it's Barnes. There's a long one, high and deep to right, down the line, fair ball and gone. Home run for Kevin Kiermaier. And the Rays take a 1-0 lead in the 10th inning. Kiermaier delivers, and the Rays are out in front.
Well, he had seen a number of curveballs in that at-bat, and Barnes finally hung one. And Kevin Kiermaier roped it.
Kevin's first home run of the year. On a very cool night in Boston, he hit it out to right. And here's Kurt Casale bouncing one foul up the right side.
Boy, just got a little bit tricky with the off-speed stuff. And this ball just hangs right in the middle of the plate, thigh high. And like I said, you've seen that pitch already for the 3rd time in the at-bat. Capitalize.
Fastball fouled back, a 2-2 pitch. And he nailed it. And the Rays finally break through with a run. On the Long one to right by Kiermaier in the 10th. Into the dirt now, 1-2. Alex Colomé up in the bullpen. He's got 8 from Smiley. Ramirez worked the bottom of the 9th. Good pitch outside. Well, the Rays have the lead, and they're thinking, why stop here? See what else they can find here in the top of the 10th inning. Sally swings and misses. Hannigan will go down to first to complete the strikeout on the breaking ball. 1 out. That follows the Kiermaier home run. Here's another look. Well, that was nice right off the bat. And you can see Hannigan, the catcher, put his head down. Now Logan Forsythe stands in and takes a strike. Another fastball around 97. It's 1-1. Too close to Logan. 2-1. Kiermaier leading off the inning with a home run. First time that he had seen Barnes. Sally struck out on the breaking ball. Now 2-2 to Forsythe. Inside that fastball. Full count.
I'll tell you, Logan has put together some pretty good at-bats here tonight. Seen a lot of pitches.
Yeah, he's had some battling at-bats. He's fallen behind in almost every at-bat. There's a fly ball back into deep left. That ball is going to be high off the wall. Forsythe on his way to second, and he's in there with a stand-up double. So here's an opportunity to add to this one-run lead on a double by Logan Forsythe.
And that ball off the monster, not played particularly well by Chris Young. You know, you see these left fielders position themselves to play that ball off a hop, turn, spin, and throw into second base to try to nail a guy, trying to turn that into a double. And Chris Young got too close to the wall. The ball comes down, bounds by him. Nice job here by Logan. Look at it, he's out in front, but still able to keep those hands back, just scoop that ball off the wall, and you see Chris Young just gets eaten up by the monster playing too close.
Logan Morrison with a chance to add to the lead. Takes the ball. Morrison 0 for 4 tonight. Couple of fly balls along with a ground ball and a strikeout his last time. It's too close. Morrison's ahead in the count, 2-0. Red Sox have the middle of their order. Bogarts, Ortiz, and Ramirez due up in the bottom of the 10th. So this opportunity, a big one for the Rays to add to their 1-0 lead. Fly ball, center field. Bradley Jr. back to make the catch. Tagging at second, Forsythe, he's going to hang on.
Wisely.
Bradley Jr. did everything right in center field.
Well, he got back, positioned himself well with a little bit of momentum, moving back. Watch him quickly get back, turn. Now you're going to set up, get your footwork ready, and come up and throw a bullet. That is absolutely textbook.
2 outs here in the 10th. Evan Longoria, who against Barnes is 2 for 2 with a home run, due up, and the Red Sox talk it over right now.
Well, what do you want to do with him? Do you want to even let him hit? Do you want to have...
Well, they have Corey Dickerson on deck, and left-handed action in the bullpen out there, and Tommy Lane, who is really tough against left-handed hitters. So here's Longoria, and they decide to pitch to him. There's a ball outside.
Although by the setup of Ryan Hannigan, I don't know how serious they are about pitching to him, because he was off the plate. And so was the pitch. They're just trying, as we brought it up earlier in the game, how aggressive Evan Longoria has been swinging the bat. They were just trying to entice him to go after a pitch that was out of the zone and get himself out.
Now they'll complete the intentional walk here. So they will put Longoria on at first base with Forsythe at second, 2 outs, and Corey Dickerson due up. So Barnes out here. They do have the lefty in the bullpen, and here comes John Farrell. And the Rays have a choice to make here with 3 right-handed bats on the bench. Back in a moment. tomorrow at Fenway Park against this Boston Red Sox club. Chris Archer, in search of his first win of the year, will be on the hill for the Rays. Our coverage begins on Fox Sports Sun at 6:30 tomorrow. Middle game of this series. Tommy Lane, the lefty, comes in to replace Matt Barnes with Corey Dickerson due. Brandon Guyer already out on deck. There are the numbers on Lane, and when you break him down from a year ago, lefties hit only 148 against him, and right-handed hitters 322. So the Rays lift Dickerson and go with Guyer.
Well, a chance to tack on. Already have a lead. You would certainly love to give yourself breathing room. You look at those numbers, Dwayne, you just brought up, and well, decision's been made. And I'll tell you what, Brandon Guyer has been hot.
2 men on now with 2 men out in the 10th. Seventh pitcher of the night for Boston. Guyer fouls the first one back, a fastball, strike one. Rays have a run on the Kevin Kiermaier home run. He was the only Ray to hit an extra inning home run last year, a solo homer in the 10th in Anaheim to beat the Angels 6-5. That came off Houston Street. Low scooped by Hannigan. It's 1-1. Ground ball third, gets away from Shaw, and everybody's going to be safe. So the Rays will have the bases loaded when that ground ball off Guyer's bat gets away from him.
Well, first things first, you got to field the ground ball. Travis Shaw was more worried and more concerned about getting to third base. You can see right there, just kind of moving in, maybe taking a peek over towards first, not fully concentrating on making sure that ball goes into the glove before you make a play. And that's what it ends up costing you.
So the Rays get another shot with the bases loaded this time. And the right-handed bat of Desmond Jennings up there. First pitch strike. So the error of the first of the game. Desmond up the right side. That's going to drop for a base hit and bound into the stands for a ground rule double. So Desmond Jennings comes through, takes it the other way, and the Rays get 2 more runs with Guyer going to third and Jennings at second base. The Rays make it a 3-0 ball game.
Well, you're wondering all evening who was going to blink first. And after the home run, you got an opportunity to get out of the inning. An error by Travis Shaw gives Desmond Jennings a chance. Nice inside-out swing up the right field line. Drops it in fair. And now you build a lead.
So the Rays have scored 3 in the 10th. Now 2 more men in scoring position, and it's the left-handed bat of Brad Miller against Tommy Lane. There's ball 1. Well, boy, that's what the Rays were looking for to add on following the home run by Kiermaier. It's been blocked by by Hannigan again. It's now 2-0. A 2-0 count. And that catches the zone. 2-1. Miller tried to check. Now it's 2-2. It's the 8th Ray to come to the plate. 2/3 of an inning for Barnes. He gave up 2 hits, a home run and a double, 1 intentional walk, 3 runs, 1 earned, as it turns out. There's ball 3. Should Miller reach, Steven Souza Jr. is on deck. And he will reach. Miller draws the walk. So that loads the bases for the right-handed bat of Steven Souza Jr.
Well, the last couple of offerings by Lane weren't even close. You'd like a competitive pitch, something to give Brad Miller something to think about, but those were easy takes.
Souza Jr. looking for his first hit tonight, facing the lefty. Fouls it back, strike 1. Good cut of a fastball.
He got a good one to hit right there. Aggressive with the swing. Coming apart a little bit for the Red Sox here in the 10th. The Rays looking to add on a little bit more, have a nice matchup here.
Almost hit him. 1-1. Had that been Geyer at the plate, I think the Rays would have had another run.
There's no doubt.
Geyer, the runner, at third. Jennings at second. Miller at first. Foul ball out of play. Takes it to 1-2. All 3 runs charged to Barnes. The only runs in this game were in the top of the 10th. 2-2. Kiermaier led off the inning with a home run. Rays have added 2 more. The 2-2 to Souza Jr. He lifts it into center, where Bradley Jr. waits, making the catch to retire the side. But the Rays scored 3 times. Kiermaier with a home run to right opened the scoring, and the Rays added 2 more. We're headed into the bottom of the 10th. It's 3-0 Tampa Bay. Moving into the bottom of the 10th inning at Fenway Park tonight. A home run by Kevin Kiermaier opening the scoring in the 10th inning. Yellowwood bringing the lumber, and that's exactly what Kevin Kiermaier did.
Well, he got a number of looks at the curveball from Barnes, and then finally got a hanger, and he just destroyed it. You can understand the excitement. It's been a long night with nothing to show for it offensively by either team until that blast right there.
Alex Colomé in the game. First pitch to Xander Bogaerts is a strike. Fastball in the mid-90s, 5th appearance for Colomé. One and one. Colomé worked Sunday in the 3-2 win over the White Sox and picked up his first major league save. The right side, it's going to wind up out of play. A 1-2 count. There's a cut and a miss. Reaching for that one. Bogaerts out on strikes.
Boy, not often you get Xander Bogaerts to take a swing like that. But Alex Colomé pounding him in with the fastball and then the slider down and off the plate. And you get a stationary hitter just waving.
So a big first out now. David Ortiz. Well, when you face the middle part of this order, there's a fastball in for a strike. Good for the Rays to have a couple of extra runs following the Kiermaier home run. One to Ortiz. Drew Smiley so good tonight. 8 innings, 11 strikeouts. You got Ortiz 3 times on strikeouts. Ground ball, short right. Forsythe is there to make that play. So the shift works out. 2 up and 2 down in the 9th inning. And Hanley Ramirez will walk to the plate. Ramirez has flied out, struck out, and grounded out tonight. It's a strike for the Rays. The pitcher of record is Erasmo Ramirez. One ball, one strike. Erasmo coming off a win Saturday in the start he made over the White Sox. Pitched a perfect ninth inning tonight. There is a strike. Now it's 1-2.
Tell you, Alex Colomé stays behind that fastball as well as anybody and really drives that pitch towards home plate. Creates a ton of backspin, obvious velocity. You see that when the radar gun lights up.
Upstairs just a bit. Two balls, two strikes. Smiley for 8, Ramirez for 1, and now Colomé. And a cut and a miss. This game is over, and the Rays are winners tonight. 1-2-3 go the Red Sox in the 10th inning. A couple of strikeouts along the way in that inning for Colomé. Rays pitching logging 14 strikeouts tonight. 11 by Smiley, 1 for Ramirez, and 2 for Colomé. In closing this one out, it's a 3-0 victory for the Rays in 10 innings tonight. Home run by Kevin Kiermaier, giving the Rays the lead to open